What are some of the dumbest crimes people will actually do? Let's get right to it, starting with number 7, no need to scam. Former reality TV star Brittish Williams pleaded guilty to 15 counts of fraud. The Basketball Wives star was indicted for not paying taxes, identity theft, and underreporting her business income. And in that tin was a computer with millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin that Zhang himself had stolen. He promised to cover her college tuition if she moved overseas with him while he played in Russia. The pair has one child together, but their relationship broke down when both sides were unfaithful. Then, Williams developed a serious gambling issue, which she said was the main reason for her crimes. She also said that while she knew what she was doing was wrong, she didn't think it would result in jail time. Williams owed $29,000 in taxes due to underreporting her income from 2017 to 2019 and claimed a niece and nephew as dependents. However, her criminal activity didn't end there. Williams also stole Social Security numbers to open lines of credit and bank accounts. The identity theft victims lost almost $30,000 since Williams didn't pay into any of the accounts she opened. During the COVID-19 pandemic, she applied for 9 economic injury disaster loans. Williams then lied about her business income and payroll in her applications, resulting in a $144,400 payout for the TV personality. She received over $50,000 from Paycheck Protection Program loans designed for small businesses seeking funds to cover payroll costs and benefits for 2 months. Also, she submitted multiple fake medical bills and received roughly $140,000. And if you thought her criminal activity ended after the indictment, you'd be wrong. Williams applied for the California COVID-19 Rent Relief Program, claiming she couldn't pay her rent as her employer reduced her hours due to the pandemic. She reported her household income as $50,000 and lied about being a California resident. So, where did the money go? Williams flaunted her lavish lifestyle on Basketball Wives. Luxury items are expensive, as you know, and she seemed to need them in bulk. However, life was different behind the scenes, and Williams later said her reason for doing the show was to cover her sister's master's degree and save her home from foreclosure. And she already said she had a gambling problem, so it was starting to make it sound like she was just saying anything. But the judge, who didn't really care what nonsense reason Williams threw out there, sentenced her to 4 years in prison for a whole bunch of fraud and ordered her to pay $564,000 in restitution. Williams and her attorney said that they felt like the court had made an example of her because she's a celebrity, which is possibly true, and oh well if it is, right? If you're going to be famous, you have to take the good with the bad. She also did a lot of stupid things. Williams filed an appeal to postpone her prison check-in date of December 11th, 2023, so she could spend the holidays with her 5-year-old daughter. While the judge granted the request, Williams then failed to report to jail on January 16th, 2024, as she filed a last-minute appeal to reduce her sentence from 4 to 2.6 years. The stupid thing about all this is that when Williams actually said she didn't think that all of that would result in jail time, she literally stole identities and ran up lines of credit, then straight up lied to take advantage of COVID funds. What did she possibly think was going to happen if she got caught? And she was already decently famous, so she had plenty of avenues to make significant money that simply aren't available to the average person. If the court made an example of her, it's probably because, yeah, she deserved it. Number 6. A job and some jail time, please. Fugitive Zyeama Johnson revealed her whereabouts to law enforcement when she applied for a job at the New Jersey Sheriff's Office. Just why? After stealing 2 credit cards, the former post office worker was on the run from law enforcement in Monroe County, Pennsylvania. She was also wanted on 10 bench warrants for failure to appear in court on traffic charges. It was initially difficult to track down Johnson until she responded to a job posting for a security guard position in a law enforcement office in New Jersey. During her background check, the sheriff's office realized Johnson had multiple warrants out for her arrest. Johnson thought she was going to the station for a job interview, but officers were waiting to take her into custody when she got there. You would think it would be obvious not to apply for a job with law enforcement when you have multiple warrants out for your arrest, but maybe she wanted to get caught? Maybe the burden of all those traffic violations was just keeping her up at night. Number 5. Disguised attempt. Nicholas Coffey gave police all the information they needed for an arrest when he flaunted his stolen Mercedes-Benz on social media. As well as bragging on social media about his new ride, Coffey had distinct face and neck tattoos that helped law enforcement confirm he was their suspect. Coffey and his accomplice had used the vehicle to commit a series of car break-ins in Deltona, Florida. A license plate reader picked up on the stolen car driving around on the evening of the break-ins and on the 5 streets where they happened. Residential security cameras caught the 2 young men wearing face coverings and gloves too, like real professionals. Video surveillance footage from a gas station also caught Coffey pulling up in the vehicle shortly after its owner reported it stolen. Coffey had gone inside the gas station wearing the face covering around his neck and blue latex gloves. Police compared images from the gas station footage and used his tattoos to identify Coffey. In some of Coffey's social media posts, he also wore the same clothing as the night at the gas station. There was already a warrant out for his arrest from a separate case, so detectives tracked him down and arrested him. So look, get tattoos where you want, but why on earth would you get them on your face and then commit crimes? Hey, you know what would be sick? If we got tattoos on our faces to make us easily identifiable, and would look scary and even more memorable. They look awesome on social media. The police don't even know what that is. Number 4. The sheep pajamas. British armed robber Terry Sullivan learned the hard way that if you're going to commit a crime, you shouldn't do it wearing your girlfriend's jammy jams. Even though this story is from 2013, which was only like 2 years ago, right? This story is just too good to pass up. Anyways, Sullivan was an accomplice in a series of armed robberies. He was part of a gang of 4 thieves who communicated with one another through a inconspicuously named BlackBerry messenger group called Armed Robbers. Blackberries were what people had before iPhones, kids. Anyway, the group sent each other selfies posing with weapons in the group chat, which is super weird, right? All these armed robbers taking a bunch of silly pictures like they're teenage girls. The group wore balaclavas as they stole cash, cigarettes, scratch cards, and more from 7 stores and 1 residential property. Sullivan and his accomplices demanded that the safes be opened and emptied. Obviously, people were too scared to notice Sullivan's interesting choice of clothing, as he wore his girlfriend's cartoon sheep pajamas during at least 1 raid. They stole $19,000 and $12,000 of stock during their crime spree. The gang members' love for selfies and documenting their hauls made it easy for police to gather information. When officers found photos of Sullivan in the infamous sheep pajamas, they knew they had found their suspects. Although the group was arrested, their charges and sentencing are unknown. Sadly, no one knows what happened to the sheep jammies either. Number 3. Yeah, I've been making millions, but I just love working here. Janet Yamanaka Mello allegedly swindled the U.S. Army out of $100 million. Yes, $100 million. And it took the government years to figure out this simple scam. Mello founded Child Health and Youth Lifelong Development, known as CHILD, in 2016, and used the company to collect a military partnership grant. The firm's mission was to help Army personnel's children, and it received dozens of grants over the course of 6 years. However, the organization was just a shell company, and its true purpose was to give Mello access to millions of dollars. She reported that in 2017, Child earned a profit of $483 on revenue of $2,152 used for training consultations. After that, Mello didn't file any subsequent tax returns. Although she worked for the U.S. Army at Fort Sam Houston in San Antonio, Texas, Mello took extra income from the company. She deposited grants 40 times into her fake business and made over a whopping $100 million in the process. And Mello really lived it up with that money too. She owned almost 80 vehicles and 31 properties across multiple states. Her list of mansions included a $3 million property in Canyon Lake, Texas, a $2.3 million estate in Castle Rock, Colorado, a $3.1 million home in Preston, Maryland, a $1.1 million house in San Antonio, Texas, and a $870,000 home in Lakewood, Colorado. And Mello didn't just invest in real estate. She owned multiple Teslas, Harley-Davidsons, Aston Martins, Ferraris, Mercedes, Maseratis, and Land Rovers. Her bank record showed she transferred $265,000 from her phony business account to buy a 2023 Land Rover. What exactly did she tell her friends and family? Oh yeah, I got into Bitcoin back in 2008. There was no way that a government employee earning a $130,000 annual salary, which is a good salary, could afford to live Mello's lifestyle. And soon, she was on the IRS's radar. IRS agents teamed with Army investigators to determine the source of Mello's wealth. They didn't have to look too far, as it was clear that Child was a fake company. A federal grand jury in San Antonio indicted Mello on 5 counts of fraud and 1 count of identity theft. If found guilty, she faces over 100 years in prison. You can't just steal that amount of money and then live a lifestyle that isn't even close to what you can afford in your present job without anyone noticing. It's like she posted a huge neon blinking sign with an arrow pointing at her for the IRS. But still, how did it take the government that long to notice $100 million spent was doing nothing? Number 2, just need some sleep. A Chinese burglar named Zuo in Shanghai decided one day to sneak into a building so he could steal some stuff. He probably normally gets away with it because most crime just isn't caught. But then it was time for his nap. Crime can be exhausting, especially when it forces you to work late hours. And if he didn't take that nap, we wouldn't be telling you his story. Zuo had big plans when he entered the Shanghai high-rise building at roughly 6:40 p.m. He took the elevator to the 8th floor and found a place to hide while security guards patrolled the area. When the coast was clear at around 10 p.m., Zuo emerged from his hiding spot and went from office to office, stealing cell phones, laptops, and at least one woman's purse. But rather than fleeing the building with his stash of stolen goods, Zuo decided to have a nap instead. Escaping can wait, you know? If you're tired, you're tired. Surveillance cameras caught him putting down his haul and falling asleep in the hallway of all places. He must have been in a deep sleep too, because he was still there when the security guards arrived for their shifts at 6 a.m. The workers discovered Zuo was on the 8th floor and called the police, who arrested him for stealing. This story leaves us with so many questions. Why nap in the middle of a crime? He literally could have slept anywhere but that building and had a better outcome. Was he on something? Is he really that stupid? We don't have the answers. After this video, be sure to stay right here to find out some more of the dumbest crimes people will do. Number 1, the dumbest places. When it comes to running from the cops, some fugitives will do whatever it takes to avoid getting caught, no matter how uncomfortable it is. Florida law enforcement spent weeks searching for Stacy Usher, who broke her probation by selling some, let's just call it illegal substances. They eventually tracked down her location, but they didn't find exactly where Usher was hiding inside the house, until they checked the couch, noticing something suspicious. Usher stuffed herself inside the sofa and covered her body with the cushions, like you did when you were 6 and you tried to convince your cousin that the couch was alive. Or maybe that was just us. Anyway, unfortunately, Usher's attempt at hiding from police officers backfired, and the sheriff's office named her the Warrant of the Week, posting her mugshot and charges all over social media. Hiding inside a couch wasn't an option for Joshua Hobson, who was on the run from the cops after stealing a car and leaving a gas station without paying. When officers went to his home, they thought the property was empty. That was until one of them realized that a large teddy bear was breathing heavily, which is also creepy, right? Since teddy bears don't usually come to life, the officers inspected the soft toy and discovered Dobson inside. He was arrested and charged with auto theft, driving without a license, and stealing from a gas station. It would have been awesome if he tried to get up and start moving in that thing though, right? We mean, it probably wouldn't have ended well for him since he'd be scaring armed police officers, but still, Ivan Lopez didn't have time to get creative with his hiding spot when police officers in Oxnard, California responded to a call from Lopez's house. So he rushed to the laundry room and climbed into the dryer. Officers initially thought their suspect fled the scene, but they figured they should check the laundry room to be sure. They found Lopez and ordered him to get out of the front-loading dryer and arrested him. But he was wrinkle-free and smelled of fabric softener, which officers all agreed was delightful. What's the dumber crime? Risking jail time by switching out designer labels with fake ones just to save a few bucks, like Angelica Zabradina did? Or would it be trying to scam all the rich people around you when you're already rich, like Adriana Benhamu Weiss did? Let's get right into it. Number 4. Label switching. Angelica Zabradina is a self-proclaimed influencer, photographer, model, actor, and extra. She's known for walking into every store with a signature tote bag with her white chihuahua inside. But aside from her blonde hair, tan-skinned, bejeweled clothing, and little chihuahua, Angelica is also a scammer who stole over $1,500 from bargain stores in England. She specifically used fake labels to steal designer merchandise from TK Maxx stores all across London. TK Maxx is essentially the overseas equivalent of TJ Maxx. Basically, Angelica purchased designer clothes from TK Maxx, including dresses from Dolce & Gabbana, Balenciaga, and Stella McCartney, in addition to sunglasses from Brioni. Then she would go home, tear out the labels, and sew them into other items of lesser values. She would take the clothes with the fake labels to TK Maxx and return them, claiming she bought them online or from other stores, and receive a refund in the amount she paid for the original designer item. She printed multiple receipts for the same item so she could try and get the same large refund from multiple store locations. To buy herself more time to find a good dupe, Angelica sometimes returned the original designer purchase and then purchased it again to extend TK Maxx's 28-day refund policy. Jermaine Perry, a regional loss prevention officer for TK Maxx, said that Angelica stole about $1,500 worth of merchandise from the store. But eventually, some of the store associates started to catch on. There were inconsistencies between the items listed on the receipt and the items Angelica claimed to be returning. The designer labels she sewed into the counterfeit items were placed poorly, definitely not to the standards of the brand. One investigator looked at a counterfeit Balenciaga dress Angelica returned and could see where the original label was ripped out and another was sewn in. In another incident, Angelica purchased Brioni sunglasses and returned ones labeled Bocheron. She purchased 3 pairs of sunglasses for £96 and used that receipt an additional 3 times to return the wrong item. In one Stella McCartney counterfeit item Angelica returned, there was a Made in Hungary label on the outside and a Made in Italy label on the inside. Angelica went on her crime spree between October and November 2018 before she got caught. The item that really got Angelica in trouble was a pink sequin Dolce & Gabbana dress valued at £250. The investigators saw that the dress was tampered with and the designer label was hanging off the back, not in typical Dolce & Gabbana style. CCTV footage showed Angelica walking into multiple TK Maxx stores towards the end of 2018. She was easily identifiable with the white chihuahua in her handbag. There was a trial at Prospero House, London's first Nightingale court. Prosecutors told the jury about how Angelica printed multiple receipts to return the same white dress twice with a £300 price tag, earning nearly $600. She denied 8 counts of fraud by false representation. Number 3. Extreme couponing. One debate among the shopper community is whether or not it's ethical to resell items purchased with coupons. Many coupons forbid buyers from reselling items, and many people wouldn't buy secondhand groceries, but reselling is not actually illegal. But this Florida couple didn't just resell items purchased with coupons. They used fake coupons to buy products for free, and then sell them at a local flea market for a 100% profit. That's where our story begins. Sean Ernst and his wife Linda DeSilvio of Ocala, Florida, purchased and printed off fake coupons in 2014. They recruited accomplices, Charles McGregor and Christine Pierce, to find fake coupons that listed items as free. They purchased the coupons for a small price and then used them to buy everyday popular items like detergent, diapers, and dog food. They went into stores like CVS, Publix, Winn-Dixie, and Walmart 6 days per week to round up their items for their flea market booth or makeshift box truck roadside store. They persuaded customers to buy from them by selling the items at well below market price at about 25% off store value. They had nothing to lose because they used the coupons to buy those items for free. They sold $20 dog food for $15, $25 pamper diapers for $17 per box, or $30 for 2 boxes. The scheme worked well in their favor. Sean and Linda made an estimated profit of more than $140,000 from their fake coupons. Walmart was the couple's favorite victim, and it was the store that ultimately put an end to the scheme. Staff associates at Sean and Linda's local store noticed that the couple was buying tons of products in bulk and not paying much for it. Some of the staff members then saw the same couple at surrounding flea markets selling the same items. Walmart started combing over their customers' receipts and video surveillance footage and turned the evidence over to police. When Sean and Linda finally got caught, they denied knowing that the coupons were fake. But Sean did admit that any reasonable person would have questioned coupons offering free items, asking buyers only to pay the sales tax. After continued questioning, Sean acknowledged that some of the coupons were fraudulent but continued to purchase them. Sean pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 3 years of probation and $1,200 in fines and court costs. Linda pleaded no contest and was sentenced to 5 years probation and $1,300 in fines and court costs. The couple was ordered to pay a total of $140,000 in restitution in Walmart. Both Linda and Sean were banned from ever entering a Walmart store again. Their accomplices, Charles and Christine, weren't charged with using counterfeit coupons to buy merchandise, but were charged with helping to sell the items. They were each charged with 1 count of dealing stolen property, but the charges were later dismissed. Number 2, Little Miss Australia. Adriana Benhamu Weiss was an interior designer for the rich and famous, designing the mansions of Australian multimillionaires in hotels and apartment developments in Paris, Moscow, and the French Riviera. She also designed the interiors for luxury properties in Israel and the Middle East. Adriana herself grew up in New York, Paris, and London, and reached high society after marrying into one of Australia's most well-known business family, the Weisses. Australians, especially in Sydney, grew to love Adriana and her mother, Helene Benhamu, also a decorator, fashion mogul, and an up-and-coming cabaret singer. Tabloids photographed the mother-daughter duo arriving in Paris in couture gowns and popping champagne bottles. People were fascinated by Adriana's beauty and lifestyle. She became a regular at gold dinners and silver parties and started lunching with Sydney's wealthiest women, who called on Adriana and Helene to help them redesign their luxe homes. But in a few short years, Adriana's enviable life came to a screeching halt with the help of a single WhatsApp message. DEC Services hired Adriana to help them renovate their offices at Bond Street in Sydney. She got the job by promising DEC a lower price for the same service that her competitors were offering. Adriana said that because she owned a furniture manufacturer and distribution center in Dubai, she could secure a lot of the supplies from her own facilities at a fraction of the cost. She asked DEC to make the payments up front and urgently so she could disperse the money to her subcontractors to get supplies and start working. The company paid her $325,000 immediately, and that's when things started to get suspicious. Adriana hired a junior worker from her firm, Benhamu Designs Party Limited, in 2015 and wasn't careful about what she put in writing. In a WhatsApp message to the employee in 2016, Adriana asked her to use Photoshop to falsify payment confirmations. The confirmations made it seem like the $325,000 that DEC gave her went directly to suppliers and contractors, when in reality, Adriana kept it all for herself. Investigators raised eyebrows when they noticed that Adriana's payment confirmations included misspellings and incorrect addresses. That's when they intercepted the WhatsApp message Adriana sent to her employee asking for these alleged payment confirmations to be created on Photoshop between November and December 2016. Adriana suddenly liquidated her company in 2018. The business, which at one time boasted elite prospects like Point Piper mansions and a hunting lodge for a Russian oligarch, owed $8 million to the Australian tax office. The liquidator's report said that Adriana's company was trading even though it was insolvent since 2015. The report said that Adriana was aware of the insolvency yet proceeded to conduct business anyway, allowing the company to rack up $7.5 million in debt while insolvent. Adriana blamed her company's failure on poor management and customer disputes. In 2018, it came out that Adriana had fallen out with luxury car importer and super yacht enthusiast Neville Croakey and his wife Natty Crichton, who hired Adriana after meeting her through mutual friends. Natty was so impressed with Adriana's resume that she hired her to find the luxury furnishings for her $45 million Point Piper mansion next door to former Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull's lavish home. But things turned ugly when the Crichtons got frustrated after waiting months for their furnishings to arrive. They directly contacted the European furniture manufacturers to check the status of their order, only to find out that their hundreds of thousands of dollars of deposit money was never received. They called lawyers who were able to get their money back, but getting a refund didn't save Adriana's tumbling reputation. Adriana tried to save herself by blaming third-party furniture manufacturers, but it didn't help. As if Adriana wasn't embarrassed enough, her husband, Daniel Weiss of the famous Weiss family, divorced her. The separation was highly publicized. But Adriana's downfall didn't stop her mother Helene from claiming the spotlight. She made headlines in Paris as a finalist for the French team in Eurovision. She used the stage name Helene in Paris and became known as an eccentric jazz singer with big gestures and crazy outfits. She was one of 12 contenders chosen from thousands of people who auditioned. But Helene in Paris lost her shine after performing Paris Mon Amour on French national television and losing her top spot. But she still posts videos of herself singing French songs on YouTube. Helene has had quite the interesting life. She was born in Morocco and lived in Casablanca until age 13, after which she moved to Paris with her family. Then she moved to the United States in the 1980s to work in fashion and interior design, and then hosted her own show on the Home Shopping Network. Then she moved to London to focus on decorating. When things didn't work out with riding on the back of her daughter's success, she moved back to Paris in 2019. Meanwhile, Adriana, a newly single mother of two, now splits her time between Sydney and Paris. She launched a new decorating company called Iconique Studio and is working under the name Adriana Shore. Adriana pleaded guilty to 3 charges to be dealt with under the Corporations Act and to a further 3 charges to be dealt with under the Crimes Act. Number 1. Eastern Metal Securities. Roger Nils Jonas Carlson launched the website for Eastern Metal Securities in November 2012, stating that the company was headquartered in Singapore and operated out of branch offices in Bangkok, Thailand, and Vientiane, Laos. Roger, the big boss of EMS, is a Swedish citizen who lived in Thailand with his Thai wife. Starting in 2006, before he even launched the EMS website, Roger used 3 websites to communicate potential investors. The main point of investment was the pre-funded reverse pension plan, PFRPP. While his website doesn't state what the PFRPP is, he promises investors a payout of 1.2 kilograms of gold per share. The first share costs $98 and following shares cost $38 each. In 2015, 1.2 kilograms of gold was worth more than $45,000. Such a high return on investment seems impossible, and Roger never explained on his website how it worked, except to say that the risk of loss was eliminated. He promised that in case the payout didn't happen, he'd be able to refund investors at least 97% of their original investment. He posted frequent updates on his website about this amazing investment opportunity and that it would not be available again. Roger received payment from his investors via Bitcoin, Perfect Money, and Sea Gold. In essence, investors were promised a payout of $45,000 for a $98 or $38 investment. Sounds like quite the steal, and it was, but not for investors, only for Roger. As it turned out, Roger was using the same IP address in Thailand to answer from several email addresses, operate 3 websites, and go under many names. Some of the online names he went by include Joshua Millard, Lars Gorgensen, Krister Joelson, Paramon Larasov, Kent Westerberg, Euclid Diodorus, and Steve Hayden. Some of these people were supposed EMS employees, while others allegedly ran other companies entirely. But investors started to grow concerned when they noticed that many EMS employees were making identical spelling and grammar mistakes. Roger even claimed that one of the employees, Euclid Diodorus, had died. He wrote a memorial post on his website and used it as a way to encourage people to invest more money because it's what Diodorus would have wanted. But there was no record of a Euclid Diodorus residing in New York. In fact, none of the other names associated with Roger's IP address turned up on any record. When investors expressed concerns, Roger shut them down immediately. He threatened them, saying that if they broadcast their concerns to others, they would never receive their payout. Adding to the pile of evidence was the fact that Roger exclusively used Bitcoin, perfect money, and Seagold, all forms of virtual currency. Virtual currency is often used for investment schemes because it's decentralized, irreversible, and has very little in the way of anti-fraud or money laundering checks. The IRS started investigating Roger under suspicion of an investment scheme. Roger targeted 3,600 people around the world. 31 of them resided in Northern California. Investigations revealed an additional 195 individuals that used Coinbase to transfer a total of $890,000 to EMS. The IRS traced 8.6 Bitcoins, valued at nearly $40,000, and another 11 Bitcoins at $61,000 transferred to accounts linked to Roger. His scheme operated from 2013 to 2019, with Roger stating that he was working with the SEC to ensure a payout. But the SEC denied ever working with Roger or any of his so-called companies. Roger's financial records revealed that he spent the majority of the cash his investors sent him, and there wasn't nearly enough to pay his victims back. Roger was charged with wire fraud, specified unlawful activity with the intent to conceal or disguise the nature, location, source, ownership, or control of the proceeds. He pleaded guilty to all the charges. In total, Roger received $11 million on behalf of EMS by using wire fraud to convert virtual funds to cash for personal use. In July 2021, he was sentenced to 15 years in prison for securities fraud, wire fraud, and money laundering charges. He had to forfeit several properties in Thailand, including a luxury resort and a money judgment of more than $16 million. Click to watch one of these next videos. Let us know in the comment section what you would rather have: free clothes for life or free alcohol for life.